For the people who live in the backwoods or the sticks, whatever you may call it can be quite difficult to find your indigenous ancestry, but at the same time, it can be pretty simple, but it's a little tricky. And I know a thing or two about that because I myself live in the backwoods. I live in what they consider in New York the backwoods. And yeah, so I know a thing or two about that. So I'm going to talk about that in this video. And also, I'm going to explain something that has helped me. Now, this part is not going to be for everybody. This part is going to be more so for people who are, shall I say, spiritual. So, yeah, the message is not going to be for everybody. When it comes to people living in the backwoods, it could be quite difficult, like I said, but at the same time, it's pretty simple because you're in a place where it's not tampered with. And when it comes to these parts, it's also a place where it's pretty much forgotten at the same time. So therefore, people aren't really, it's like the information is still there, but you gotta know who to go to find out certain things. Like for me, I live in Staten Island, and that is considered the backwoods of New York. A lot of people have heard of Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, Manhattan, but you barely hear about Staten Island, which is good. We like to keep it that way, although it is starting to get overpopulated and it's just too much for this island. But yeah, I live in the backwoods of New York, and it hasn't been too tampered with. Well, it's starting to now. It's starting to. But for the most part, we still have a lot of history out here. So when you live in these places, you may still have like old buildings. The people who've been living there for years upon years upon years. So therefore, the original, the people who know things all in this area, so nobody's scattered, it's not tampered with, it's not overpopulated, if you get my drift here. So therefore it shouldn't be that hard to find your indigenous ancestry, but it is difficult due to the whole misclassification. This may sound blunt, but to me, I feel like if your people have been living there for decades upon decades, and there hasn't been too much people migrating to that area. If you know the history of that area, so it's really important to know this. If you know the history, um, if there was plantations there, the slave owners, so on and so forth, um, everything that's happened to that area. If you know all of that, it will be really easy to figure out who's who, especially if there's no new incoming people, if that makes sense. Um, so that's what's happening with where I live. And right now, what has happened, what, excuse me, excuse me, I'm getting all tongue twisted, but what has helped me so far is the fact that I've been reaching out to family members that know a lot of information. And I've been finding the most success with distant relatives, like third, fourth, fifth cousins. Um, for some reason, I always, it's like distant family members just know way more. I mean, I have people in my family, my immediate family, that know some information, but if it wasn't for me reaching out to other distant family members, I would have never gotten this far. Like, for an example, there's a cousin of mine who was married to William S. Yellow Robe. He was really big in the indigenous community. He actually written this book. Um, Here we go. Where the Pavement Ends. It's a Native American play, and he's written like a few books. And yeah, he's really big in the indigenous community. And she was married to him, so she still is, because he passed away. She's still around. Um, she's still pretty known in the indigenous community, and I didn't know that. So if it wasn't for me reaching out, I would have never known. And She is one of my family members who's been giving me information on a lot of stuff about our indigenous side of the family. So, yeah, it's really like who knows what, who has the information. So, you may live in like the backwoods and it might seem like there's nothing there, but trust me, somebody knows something. So yeah, if I was you, I would be doing research on the county that you live in or where your family goes back to. Do research on that and research the Indians that lived in that area and just the history of everything that's happened to that area. And then you could start connecting the dots. And it will be really helpful too if the there's already a tribe still going on in that area that you're researching. That will help if you like reach out. Not every tribe, I'm not gonna lie, not every tribe is, some people are just closed to new people coming in for some reason. It is what it is, but I would still reach out. And even so, if you're getting like the cold shoulder, I would still keep digging and doing research because you have the right to know your indigenous ancestry. Nobody has the right to take that from you. Now, with that being said, another thing that has helped me out. Now, this is the part of the video where it is going to get spiritual. And not everybody's spiritual. I know some people who are watching are like Christian or Catholic or atheists, whatever. I respect all aspects, but this is what I'm into. Now, and I gotta give an example. I've spoken about this situation that happened to me in another video I did months ago about healing like ancestral wounds and whatnot. But I'm gonna talk about it here because it's really important. So when it comes to certain people, now we all have these abilities, but some people are just naturally born with it. And I'm one of those people. Now, if you're someone that had experienced so many like paranormal stuff or spiritual things, and it's like you can't explain it, you feel like you may be going crazy, uh, no one doesn't understand you, it's okay. You're not crazy. It's just psychic abilities, which is crazy because I would have never thought that I would have that. Never thought about it like that, but apparently, according to my natal chart, because I've been diving deep into astrology in my birth chart, and it's so scary in a way of how accurate it is. According to my natal chart, I have certain psychic abilities, and the way that it's been broken down, I'm like, all of that I've been seeing in my natal chart, all the explanations, it's starting to make sense because I'm like, I've experienced all of that. Now, so when it comes to this family research, because in my natal chart, it shows that I have like ancestral like knowledge and all this other stuff. And connecting with like spirits and receiving information, and you know what, I would save all of that for another video talking about natal charts and astrology because it's all really interesting, but not to make this too long. So when it comes to this, and I gotta give an example of how I ended up in the Tuscarora tribe. So for those who are new to this channel, I am a part of an Indian tribe. It's a Tuscarora tribe down in North Carolina, and it's the Skadore-Wukan, aka Cape Fear Indians. And how I came across that, because both my parents' ancestry goes back to North Carolina and also Virginia and New York and so on and so forth. But for this example, I'm gonna just mention North Carolina. So both of my parents' ancestry does go back to the south part of North Carolina. And I remember when I was doing my research on this, I was looking more towards on my mother's side. I wasn't even thinking about doing research on my father's side just yet. But for some reason, I just kept getting pulled to look on his side of the family. And particularly, I kept getting pulled towards my great great grandmother. I just kept looking at her like documents and where she lived and all that stuff. And when you're getting pulled towards a certain ancestor, don't, fight it. Just go with it. So I remember I was looking through her documents and I was able to find the farm that my family owned down there and all this other stuff. Um, but at the same time, I was still pretty much confused because that side of the family has been cut off for quite some time. My father's father had moved up to New York from that area when he was like, I think like a teenager or something like that. And yeah, ever since then, it's like that part has been cut off. So I don't really know too much of that side. So I was really confused. I just didn't know what to like look for. So I remember one day I was stuck, and even though I didn't know what I have now, the whole psychic abilities, I still knew there was something like there. And I just remembered saying like, I'm stuck, I just need a sign. Now I dream every night, to the point where sometimes it's annoying because I feel like I'm up sometimes in my sleep. But I dream every night. And I thought I was gonna go to sleep that night having a dream with some type of sign. That night, went to sleep, didn't dream of anything. I woke up the next day though with a children's song playing in my head, and it's an old children's song. I forgot what it's called, but it has to do with the bear jumping over the mountain to get to the other side, and it repeats itself over and over and over and over with that same line. And I remember kept hearing the bear jumped over the mountain to get to the other side. And I'm like, why is this song playing in my head constantly? It was hard to get out, and I was ignoring it. Little did I know that was a sign though. So I remember later on that day, I was in the shower and the word beer just kept popping into my head, to the point where it was just like, okay, I don't know what this is about, but when I get out the shower, I'm gonna hop on the computer and look up bears and Indians in North Carolina. Like, it just wasn't making any sense. Now, I grew up in New York, and I did not grow up in a Indian community, so I didn't know that tribes go by like names of like animals and clans, like Turkey Clan, Wolf Clan, all that. I had no idea. So I hopped on the computer and I looked up bears, Indians, North Carolina. I don't know. And all of a sudden I see Bear Clan. And I'm like, okay, that's really interesting. I'm gonna just keep that in the back of my mind. And it just so happened to be like in the same area where my family's from. So I'm like, all right. So fast forward, I'm on YouTube. I come across this guy's channel where he's talking about that particular area of North Carolina where my family's from. And his family's from the same area. And he's talking about the indigenous people there and all these counties. And I'm like, that's the same area where my family's from. So I reached out. And he answered back, and we exchanged emails. And then from there, I got to speak with him over the phone. And little did I know that he is the chief of the tribe that I'm in now. And let me backtrack. So after I looked up the Bear Clan, I also looked up the tribes in the area, and there's like a few tribes. And there was this one particular tribe that I just kept looking back on for some reason. And I didn't reach out to no tribe because I was just still confused. But the tribe that I kept getting pulled to look at, that's the tribe that I'm in now. So fast forward, I'm talking to the chief, and I'm asking him a few questions. And one of the questions I asked him, and I felt kind of silly asking this question. I was just like, do you know anything about like bears and any significance with bears and like Indians and the tribe, whatever? And he was telling me that this is the Bear Clan, and he got into that. And in my head, I was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, because I was receiving that sign, and it was just confirmation after confirmation. So when it comes to you, if you are someone that's super spiritual and you go through the same experiences of having dreams or whatever the case may be, and you are doing family research, I would, instead of just being like, oh, whatever, it's all these experiences is, I don't know, it's all in my head, I'm probably going crazy. No, I would follow that intuition, because that is a ability that is really special to have, and it will help you when it comes to this family research. So that was the example that happened a few years ago. Now, in present day, I'm going through the same situation when it comes to finding the Lenape side on my mother's side of the family. So, on my mother's side of the family, they've been living on this island for centuries. And at first, I was kind of ignoring doing research on this side for numerous of reasons, but I keep getting pulled to do research on this and start like uncovering stuff. So right now it's like I'm getting pulled towards this particular ancestor, and I'm gonna put her picture up around here somewhere. And this ancestor is the Lenape woman, and I've been told that we are part Lenape since I was little from my grandfather. Not that many people speak on it. A lot of people have moved on because there was a lot that was going on back then, and it was pretty tough. But I've learned that the family was really big on claiming their Lenape side at one point, and then eventually it just kind of simmered out. And, it was too much of a fight back then. But now I'm just getting this pull to it. And this lady, this ancestor of mine, she is buried not too far from where I live. All the Lenape ancestors are buried not too far from me. And along with my Italian ancestor. So she married an Italian man. I'm gonna post this picture too because it's so cool. I just came across this picture recently from reaching out to another family member, and he was able to like show me pictures of the Italian ancestor that I never saw this picture before. So it's pretty cool. She married an Italian man because a lot of Italians started moving out here. So there's that. What's so interesting about this though is that instead of getting a bunch of signs, I have been getting dreams. I had a dream last week. I was sitting down with a couple of women who are family, and one of them who was sitting down, oh my gosh, I feel like this is too early to say, but there was somebody in the family. It wasn't like she was family. She was married to my grandfather's brother, and she passed away like recently. She was 100 years old, and she knew a lot about her family and this family. So last week I had a dream, and I I don't think I ever, I'm not sure if I ever met this woman. I probably was really little the last time I saw her, but she popped up in my dream along with like one or two other ancestors, and they was telling me things about the Lenape on this island. And they was telling me about a lake that has been drained, and now there's something built on top of it, and like a well. That's another thing about spirituality, is like these metaphors can be so confusing, because the part of the island they were showing me, I know that area, and a lot of the mob lives there. So I'm just like, I'm not about to go stoop around in the mob neighborhood. Oh no. But I don't know. It's another note that I gotta keep in my noggin for later. I don't know the significance of a lake being drained in a well and something built on top of it. I do not know. But eventually I will find out. Um, so I'm getting messages like that, and also just a major intuition of everything is already there. I just have to get it. So when it comes to people in the backwoods, it's like there are people who know a lot of information, and turns out there are people in my family who still go to these Lenape powwows. And uh, I had a cousin of mine who did an interview with one of the Lenape chiefs in like Delaware. So there's people in my family that's involved in certain things, and it's like my intuition is just like everything's already there. I just have to reach out and get it. It's not that complicated. So I don't know. I'm gonna see how this goes. So when it comes to people in the backwoods, or if you're somebody who's like super spiritual, do not ignore. Ooh. Okay. Do not ignore your intuition, and yeah, and keep digging for information. It's all out there. It's just like I said, it can be difficult, but it's pretty simple. I hope what I said helped a bit. Maybe not the spiritual part, but I hope the other part of this video has helped, because it's hard to explain when it comes to people living in like the backwoods, because like I said, it's a forgotten place, but there are people out there who still know things. So say like you're somebody who's just, I don't know, you live in like a certain part of South Carolina, and your people have been living there for like, I don't know, for centuries upon centuries. And it's like, okay, now what? It's just all about finding that information and researching that area, because it's like the answer is just, it's in front of you. And the thing is, you can go ahead and be like, okay, well, we're indigenous people of this area, but by law, you got to prove it because of the whole misclassification. And people could easily be like, no, you're African American. What are you talking about? Your ancestors were slaves. And it's like, to to reclaim your tribe, to get certain things passed, you need to have that proof. Otherwise, people, to you, you can be indigenous, and I'm not going to argue against that, but to the US, to the government, to the world, you're African American. So it has to be proven to be, in order for you and your family to be taken seriously. And it does suck, it does, but there's ways around it, and I will talk about it more in future videos, because it's, like I said, it's difficult, but it's not, you know I don't know. But that's all I got for this video.